In today's video, we're testing out a few different pizza life hacks. How can you best improve your pizza experience? Guys, everyone loves pizza, but there are some things about the pizza experience that I think could be improved. And today we're gonna be testing some of those out. We wanna try a few different methods of reheating pizza. We wanna try a few different methods of serving pizza. And we wanna see if we can figure out what the best way is to get your pizza back from the restaurant to make sure it's still in good piping hot condition and ready to eat. This right here is a pretty cold pizza. It's been sitting in a refrigerator overnight. I think a lot of the time you're not gonna be putting a whole pizza into the refrigerator, but let's just assume we had a party, we bought a bunch, and this one was left over because we just were generous. We bought too many pizzas. So we're gonna be testing methods of reheating that. And then we're going to see if we have an easy DIY method to make sure your pizza stays nice and hot as it journeys from the pizza restaurant back to your living room. Here's the basic idea. We're going to be testing a few different methods on how to reheat your pizza, how best to serve it, and how best to get it back from the restaurant still hot. Okay, so with one of these pizzas, we are going to try putting it inside these thermal bags. These are $1 at Walmart. It's not a big investment. It's not gonna break the bank, and they should be reusable. So we're just gonna put this in here, and then we're gonna compare this to just our other pizzas and see what sort of difference we get. How much more heat are we getting out of one of these just by leaving it in here? And I'm probably not supposed to transport it sideways like that, but we're gonna try it. It's in the bag. We've got our other pizzas not in the bag. Now we've got our normal pizzas just sitting on the counter. One of them over here is just sitting directly on the counter. The other pizza is sitting on top of the first pizza. And then the one we're hoping is gonna work the best, we've got our $1 insulated bag, and that's sitting on top of a towel on the counter. We're just gonna let these sit for 10-15 minutes. Then we're gonna take the temperature of all three of these. We're gonna see how much we are losing heat. So we've got the temperature of the pizza that's just sitting on the counter, the one that's a little bit insulated, and the one that's hopefully a lot insulated. And just as a test, we're also just gonna take that gun, and we're gonna see what temperature one of these is right now, just sort of in the middle of the pizza. How much heat are we really losing? Now this has made it back from the pizza place, but the pizza place is only about 4 minutes away from where we are, so it hasn't been a long journey, and you always have to get the pizza back somehow. So the control is really more of what happens as it sits on the counter, but there is gonna be some difference from travel time. Here we go. Middle of our pizza is showing up at 141 degrees Fahrenheit. That's nice and hot. That'll probably burn the roof of your mouth if you eat that. While we're letting those sit, we're gonna try the first of our reconstituting techniques. So we have here a cold pizza. If you like cold pizza, then you're done. Problem solved. You just eat it like that. Not too bad. But we do want to see what happens if we try and bring it back to its former glory. As a control, I'm going to try just putting this in the microwave. I'm going to heat it up until it all looks nice and warm, the cheese is nice and melty. We're going to see what it's like. Then, what we're going to be testing is an idea that I've seen in a lot of places online. Several videos, articles, they all talk about how to reheat your pizza in a microwave. The key is apparently that you put in a glass of water with it. The water is supposed to add steam and prevent it from getting as chewy. Seems nice and hot. A lot of places. The grease is certainly bubbling and boiling. Cheese, fairly hot. It's not like super liquidy or runny, but it doesn't look bad. It doesn't look, old and stale the way it did before it went in. Noticeable difference there. It's fairly soft. It doesn't really have the same feel as pizza that's new. It's definitely a different texture. Crust is fairly soft. Plate is now covered in little drips of oil and water. I'm just gonna put a paper towel down under it. This is a cup of fairly hot water, not boiling, but not cold. Doesn't really say if it's supposed to be like going around with the pizza or just in a corner. We're just gonna try it right here, run it for the same amount of time, 45 seconds, see how it turns out. As it cools down a little bit, it really starts to get that microwaved food quality where it's just a little bit of chew more than it's supposed to have. Not super pleasant. Let's see how this has turned out. To me, this doesn't feel like it got quite as hot. The cheese doesn't look like it's cooked quite as much. It's warm. Don't think it is as hot as that one was. Hot enough. So everything I said suggested that by putting a glass of water in there, you could get like a nice and crispy crust out of it. Very soft and chewy. I'm not convinced. I want to try one more thing though. I'm going to heat this glass of water up more to the point where it's basically boiling, and then I'm going to take a new piece and cook it with that, because maybe somehow the steam is helpful. I'm not sure. Very soft, pretty much the same as the other two that I tried microwaving. Okay, we've got our 3 types of pizza: microwaved with no glass of water, microwaved with a fairly hot but not boiling glass of water, and microwaved with boiling water. They've all had a chance to pretty much cool down now. Very chewy crust, hard to get through. That's exactly what you're trying to avoid when you microwave stuff. I wouldn't call it a nice crispy crust, but it does seem a little bit less chewy. About the same as the second one. Overall, I'd say the water seems to be making a negligible amount of difference. It may be slightly less chewy. Everything looks pretty much the same, has about the same consistency as far as I can tell. Nothing is crispy on these because that's not really what microwaves do in most cases. When these first came out of the microwave, they're pretty similar. All of them were warm, they were very soft, the crust didn't really have any rigidity to it. And even the back part of the crust that supposedly gets the chewiest was just fairly soft to eat. So I would say a microwave, it does reheat the pizza. It doesn't make it very similar to how it was when you first bought it. Our 3 different types of pizza, sitting on the counter, sitting on the pizza, sitting on the counter, and sitting in our insulated bag, have now been sitting out for about 20-25 minutes. So we're gonna take the heat gun and test again. Before, we're getting a temperature range of the high 130s up to the low to mid 150s in Fahrenheit. So now they've been sitting out, let's see what they're doing. All right, test here in the middle, 115. That's actually where it was probably the coolest before, 115 Fahrenheit. So that's a significant drop. And over here near the edge, we had much higher temperature before. So that was where we had about 150. We're now down to about 118. Maybe we'll get up to 120 somewhere. Let's see, there's a 190, there's a 120. So 120 is still not cold. And that's not cold pizza, but it's not the piping hot pizza you're hoping for. Let's try the one that's actually been sitting down on the counter. This is a stone countertop, pulls a lot of heat out of things, so I suspect this one's gonna be even colder. Ooh, yeah. Taking readings all over. Interestingly, the middle of this one seems warmer, and on the other one, the middle was the coolest part. But overall, we definitely have a cooler pizza here. The one sitting directly on the counter, not insulated by a pizza and a pizza box. This has lost more heat. Okay, now we've got a pizza that has been in our $1 thermal bag and sitting on top of a towel. Let's see what kind of heat retention we have. Maybe this is gonna work, maybe it's not. It feels warm, just reaching into the bag. Doesn't look brand new. The cheese does look like it's solidified a little bit. Let's see what temperatures we're getting. Oh, 120, 122, 120. So it looks like the coldest spots on this pizza are about the same temperature as the warmest spots on our other pizza. So it is warmer. It's not a perfect solution. This pizza is not exactly the same temperature. It's lost a lot of heat. We took measurements of up to 150 before we let them sit for a while, and this is now dropped down to about 120, but the other 2 pizzas had dropped down to like 103 to 115, and so we definitely got a little bit more heat out of it. These bags are just $1, and so if you live maybe a little bit farther away from the pizza place, I'd say that's probably a good idea to grab one of those bags, just leave the whole pizza in the box. You're gonna get more heat out of it. It'll get you a few more miles. Okay, we've got our waffle iron. What I've been told is the best method is you take 2 pieces and you sandwich them together, and then you put that in the waffle. So it's like putting the heat from the outside and just cooking in, and you end up with sort of a pizza sandwich. Now this waffle iron is not really big, so I think what we're gonna do is trim down our pizza just enough. There we go. Well, let's just try this into the Belgian waffle maker. It's not a floating hinge. And, we're just gonna leave it. We're gonna let that sit for a couple minutes and see how it does. Okay, our pizza has been in our waffle iron here for a few minutes now, and it looks like we've got some very nicely melted cheese. Maybe a little too crispy on the crust. We could probably pull these apart, but I think the idea is that you now have yourself a pizza sandwich. So once that cools down enough that I feel like I can bite into it without losing the roof of my mouth, we're gonna give it a try. Oh, that's not bad. It's kind of like a calzone. Got the crust on both sides, all the fillings on the inside. That really does do a very good job of bringing that crust back to sort of a crispy texture. It may be a little bit drier than it starts because it has just been sitting in the refrigerator overnight. So is it exactly the same? No, but I like that. That's a good idea if you happen to have a waffle iron and you don't mind getting a little bit of pizza grease in it. Convenient for carrying around. You just got the sandwich style. I kind of thought this one was just gonna be silly, that it might burn the outside, not really melt anything in the inside, but the inside, the cheese got nice and hot, it's melty, it's stringy, and that crust texture is pretty good. Time to test another hack, and this one is, again, I've seen in several places, the idea that if you show up somewhere with pizza and you need to be able to serve it, but you realize you don't have plates or paper towels. So the thought is that we can use the cardboard from the box itself and turn that into serving plates. We're gonna try a few different things. First, we're gonna try tearing the cardboard to see if we can get any sort of straight lines with that. Next, we're gonna try using a pizza cutter, and if you're ordering a pizza, it comes pre-sliced, you may not need or have a pizza cutter. We're gonna try it anyway, and then we're just gonna try it with scissors or a knife and see how well it works conceptually. All right, at least on this particular brand of pizza box, that part works pretty well. Now I think the tricky part is, can we split this into quarters? It's not smooth. Maybe over the edge of a counter. Oh, it works a tiny bit better over the edge of a counter. That's a little rough, not ideal, but hey, you can put a piece of pizza on that. You can carry that around. That's plausible. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but it's plausible. Try our pizza cutter, see if that helps us score the cardboard any sort of, and gets us a cleaner tear. Yeah, probably about the same. I wouldn't really call that much of an improvement. So pizza cutter, not so much. Let's see what would happen if we had a knife or scissors to cut these instead of just tearing it apart. Well, that came off pretty nice and easy. Score that. That comes apart. Let's try with scissors. All right, I'm gonna say if you have a knife or scissors, this is definitely a viable option. If you do have any leftover pizza, however, it's gonna be kind of tricky to get it home because you've kind of ruined your box. You know, maybe you had 4 people, each ate 1 slice, and somehow you got sick of pizza at that point. You can kind of make a makeshift box out of the other half. It's not real slick. You might be able to get it home without dropping it. So if you're confident you're gonna eat all the pizza, I would actually recommend this. This is not a bad idea. Cut the top off, cut it into pieces, easily use it as a plate, carry the slice around. Works pretty nice. If you aren't sure if you're gonna eat it all, you might just wanna try and hold on to it, but it works. Okay, we've got one more reheating method that we need to test, and that is a frying pan. So here's what we're gonna do. The idea is you get the frying pan pretty nice and hot to the point that water dripped in just kind of bubbles it up and boils away pretty quickly. You pour in a decent amount of water and then you throw the slice of pizza in with it. You then throw the lid on, trapping in all of that heat and the steam from the water that's boiling away. You even add a little bit more water as it boils off. The idea is that you're heating it directly on the bottom crust, but then you're also surrounding it with ambient heat and very hot steam, which is supposed to sort of rehydrate the pizza as it warms it back up. There we go. Very hot slice of pizza coming out of a very hot pan. That is a good sound right there. Nice and crispy crust. As I said, I do think I had the temperature up a little bit high. We've got these sort of burn spots, the pattern of the pan that the pizza originally cooked in, but it's not bad. It's very minor charring. This pizza is holding itself together so much better than the microwave pizza. It really just has some shape to it. It's not just like falling in half the same way the other pizza was. There's definitely a crust and crispiness to it. It's a little too hot. I'm afraid if I bite it, I'm just gonna burn my mouth, but gotta go for it. Guys, that's excellent. Pizza in a frying pan with a little bit of water works great. Pizza in a waffle iron, 2 pieces sandwiched together, works surprisingly well, very easy to carry around because you've got the bread on both sides. Pizza in the microwave, it's all right. Pizza in the microwave with water, a tiny step above. Using the Mylar $1 heat bag to keep your pizza warm, it's not perfect. It doesn't keep it warm indefinitely, but I would say it definitely does give you an extra 5 or 10 minutes of good heat to your pizzas. If you have pizza a lot, probably worth it. Maybe you can just keep one of those in your car or somewhere it's easy to grab. So when you're going to pick up pizza, just throw the pizza right in the bag. It's gonna be hotter when it gets to your house. Guys, that's not all you know. We've always got more for you to see. That wax out was hot.